Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Repa FM and Africa Independent Television AIT. My name is Amechi Anapwe. Political competition is intensifying ahead of the forthcoming general election and also the governorship election part of it. But alongside the campaigns comes a familiar concern that we have noticed in our democracy right from the word go, the growing fear of election violence, voter intimidation, and alleged abuse of state institutions to indeed confer advantage on ruling parties. Now, across Nigeria, opposition parties have repeatedly accused incumbent governors of deploying the advantages of office to weaken political rivals, raising questions about whether elections are truly fought on equal footing. Critics argued that enormous powers and influence wielded by state governors through control of state resources, political structures, and at times alleged influence over security agencies can make it pretty difficult for opposition to campaign freely. Allegations of harassment, restrictions on political rallies, selective enforcement of regulations, politically motivated arrests, and intimidation of supporters have become recurring features of Nigeria's electoral process. These issues have once again come to the fore, especially in Ebonyi State, where the political atmosphere has become increasingly tense ahead of the governorship poll, while opposition parties have raised concerns about intimidation and the shrinking of democratic space. The state government maintains that every political party is free to campaign and that the election will be peaceful, credible, and conducted in accordance with the law. We will, on the program today, examine this growing trend, especially as it concerns Ebonyi State. Our guest is Emmanuel Nwobo, a lawyer and a chieftain of the PDP from Ebonyi State. But before we get to him, we'll give you updates on the freezing of the account of Osun State government by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, just 10 days to the governorship election. The anti-corruption body cited ongoing investigations that indicate massive movement of Osun State funds to private accounts as reason for its action, while Osun State government on its part is insisting that it was just a mere political move to emasculate the ruling Accord party in the state ahead of the governorship election. 10 days to the election, Osun State government account frozen by the EFCC. We will offer perspectives. My colleagues are with me as usual, Uju Eje and Adeba Obodori. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Amici.
Let's start with this soundbite from Osun State, the governor crying to the high heaven, while music star Davido also appealing for calm. Let's take a listen.
This morning, we received a letter from our banker forwarding a letter from the EFCC instructing the bank to freeze Osun State government account. This action was taken without any court order. We are supposed to be in democracy, where the rule of law must always prevail. We will therefore not accept any situation where federal agencies trample on the constitutional right of subnational governments. This is a threat to democracy. If we all keep quiet and allow this illegality, very soon, whatever is left of our democracy will be fully eroded.
Give me one. Half minute.
Everyone to remain calm. No political ambition, disagreement, or election is worth the life of an Osun son or daughter. Let us reject violence. I'll say it again. Let us reject violence, intimidation, provocation, and most importantly, destruction. To every person in Osun, come out and exercise your right to vote. Do not be afraid or intimidated. Your vote is your voice, and your choice must be respected.
So you have heard some of those from Osun, including his governor, Senator Adeleke. EFCC's freezing of his account just 10 days before the election, citing investigations that indicate, according to the Anti-Corruption Agency, massive movement of state funds into private accounts, and they suspect it is for fraudulent criminal activities, perhaps vote buying and inducement and all that. Interesting scenario in Osun State. Adebayo Bodori.
Well, for me, I am worried. Towards the 1983 election, there was one popular thing, even in newspapers, in commentary, that our politicians have learned nothing and forgotten nothing. I think it would be terrible if that phrase resurfaced as we prepare for 2027. Because the phrase came up then because of desperation for political domination all over the country by the then ruling party. And we are seeing signs of it now. Because the tendency that the popularity of a party should be tested at the polls, it should not be imposed. Desperation for electoral victory is a threat to democracy. And when you see signs like this, what should worry us is that our celebration of uninterrupted nearly 3 decades of democracy must be sustained. I mean, when we see signs like this, it will make people to lose, there is deficit in public trust of institutions. If you have an agency of government that is saddled with responsibility of ensuring financial sanity, and 10 days to an election, you are crippling a government, I think it's illegal.
Is it illegal? Because
it's
in 2018,
it's unacceptable.
Now,
because let me tell you.
Just give me a moment. In 2018, EFCC froze the account of Benue State government when Samuel Otom, just a week after Samuel Otom defected from the APC to the PDP, the state government went to court, Federal High Court. The court declared the action of EFCC illegal, but EFCC appealed that case. And at the Court of Appeal ruled in its judgment that EFCC has the right, based on its interpretation of the Money Laundering Act, that EFCC can freeze even a state government's account for 48 hours without valid court order. That after 72 hours, that after 72 hours, that's 3 days, the Anti-Corruption Agency must approach a court of law to now give a ruling to that effect. But if at the end of 72 hours, he fails to bring out such an order, that a frozen account should be unfrozen. So the law says EFCC is right in the first 3 days.
Well, for me, it's the timing. The timing.
The motive behind it.
Is it now that they are just noticing? I mean, you are talking of movement of government fund. Is it now they are just noticing that government fund is being, and then are civil servants not going to pay salary this month when you freeze the account? Imagine the suffering of those who are working, who are civil servants in Osun State. Because it's total, will the FCC now be paying the salary of civil servants? Are they legally authorized to do that? So, for me, it's desperation for power. Desperation for electoral victory, and it must be resisted. Okay. It must not be allowed. What is good is good. What is bad is bad. What is bad, we must paint it in bad color, and this is exactly what is happening in Osun State.
Like Yorubas will say, "Oh, da. What is not good is not good." Amici, if you look at what is happening, you gave the Benue example, and what was it? A week after Otom defected. So how would you define that? Obviously, it looks like political oppression because a man defected to a party he believes, he has more liberty to achieve his aspirations. And then look at this one. Since he moved to the Accord Party, it has been one problem or the other. First, it was the local council fund.
For years now.
For years now. That has been
meant for local governments in Osun State has been withheld.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the government said they failed to conduct local council election. The matter went to court, and the court sided with the federal government.
Oh, well, I don't know, but we have raised issues about the judiciary, but then I'm not competent to determine what should happen to such judgments or those who effected them. But I'm looking at the general picture that is being painted. The general picture that is being painted is that of emasculation, that of oppression. You waited all along. It's only 9 days to the election that you now determined that the Osun government is tampering with funds. Funds are being moved in irregular ways, and so you had to freeze the account. In other words, you are saying, look, in case this government would use any of those funds for the election, let us freeze everything. But I ask, is it done to every other state? Did that happen in APC states? Did it happen in Imo State when we're having the off-cycle election? Did it happen in other states? Did it happen in Ondo or Ekiti states, where the accounts of the states frozen, whether for investigation or for whatever purpose? Why must it be Osun all the time? Local government, and then this one. The man survived all along. Only God knows how he's been able to carry the local council personnel along in his government. It's the same thing that former President Obasanjo did to Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos State.
And he fought his way through.
And he fought his way through. This man has also tried to fight his way through. And then now you're slamming a second one. Of course, look, let's not pretend. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Nobody who is morally right can look at what is happening and say this thing is normal. It's okay.
So two issues
and
there.
EFCC should endeavor to be impartial. It has a lot of reputation to protect in this case. It must not be seen to be a tool.
So two issues there, moral issues and legal issues. Legal issues, the FCC is right as long as it's after 72 hours, 3 days, it doesn't freeze the account, and of course, if there is no court order to allow it to continue to freeze the accounts just after 3 days. That's on the legal side, but there are a lot of questions on the moral side. Heavy questions, no. Right-thinking Nigerian we ignore. You talked about timing and all that.
Exactly.
And you talked about the fact that there are many ways you can bend a law without breaking it. The current EFCC leadership is doing marvelously well. Competent, credible professionals. But when things like this happen, you begin to wonder whether some external influence were made to be on them. But we expect them to hold on and find ways of indeed not absorbing these pressures. But the issues are here that in an electoral contest like this, whenever the government in power senses that on ground it doesn't have much popularity, there's this tendency to resort to desperate measures. And some people will think what is happening in Osun can get to the limits of desperation. So it behoves on everybody, because the federal government, you mentioned how Bola Tinubu fought against all us. The whole world was with him. Obasanjo's administration illegally withheld local government funds for Lagos State, and it took a Supreme Court judgment.
20
yes.
Local
so for an administration
areas
that going through that experience, a lot of people will expect that they will manage our democracy better than his.
That they will be more charitable, having felt the same pains when he was in government. But that's not what we are seeing. And then you talk about the morality of what is happening. Of course, nobody would actually agree with what is happening, and then a situation where our democracy is being made to look like a mockery to the extent that some people are wishing otherwise. That's not what we all collectively fought for as a nation, even as individuals. I know what we personally went through during the June 12th agitation.
Adeba, but let's see it from the standpoint of the EFCC. They said they have evidence that huge sums of money were being moved from Osun State government funds into private accounts. And they cannot, as a responsible anti-corruption agency, fold his hands and watch that happen. That they can stop fraud, corruption. They have the legal rights to stop it even before it is committed. So if you see it from that standpoint, wouldn't it be a right step in the right direction if that fact is established?
Well, for me, like I said, EFCC has its jobs defined for it. But if you look at the issue of EFCC from its inception, there is this perception that sometimes it is being used as a political tool to intimidate passive political foes. And when you look, like I raised earlier on, the timing of this action, as far as I'm concerned, and then you look at
what of the timing of the funds they said they alleged were being siphoned?
If you look at what has been happening in Osun in the last 2 months or 3 months, Adeleke, the governor, cried out that his notable members are being arrested and detained.
In their scores. And brought to Abuja, not just retained, brought to Abuja.
Yes, and then you look at what happened to the Secretary of the State Government. He was present at while they were signing their peace code, representing the governor, and then he received a alert that police has invaded his house. Do they have?
He was arrested and released.
They have a court. They have a court order. And you look at what is happening around that time, and that's why I'm saying that we must not be forced to start repeating what happened in 1983. That our politicians have learned nothing and forgotten nothing. You see, if you look at the statement made by the national chairman of, you can locate this action in the statement made by the national chairman of APC at the inauguration of the campaign council for Osun election. He said, this will be a rehearsal, Osun election will be a rehearsal of the machinery we are preparing for 2027. And you look at the action that are being taken.
Now, you begin to wonder whether it's a legitimate or illegitimate.
You begin to raise questions.
Yes.
What kind of machinery have they put in place?
That they want
Is
to
it
deploy?
The intimidation, the arrest, the detention, and then this certain action?
Yes.
By 10 days to election.
Yes,
10 days to the election.
The governor, Adeleke, has said, and have endorsed President Bola Tinubu and the APC for presidential election. And a few days ago when he spoke, he told the president, I have endorsed you. I will work for you. But ensure that this governorship election that will come in 9 days' time now is free and fair. It appears that has not helped him much.
Obviously, it hasn't helped him. And he's a very, very honest man. At least he came out to say, look, I'm supporting you for the presidency. Of course, a court party cannot have a presidential candidate at this point.
Even when there's a case in court over his candidacy.
Exactly. So he has endorsed President Tinubu. But if you know the history of of that camp, right from when it was AD to AC to ACN, and now APC, you know that, you said, Abba said the winner takes it all or whatever. But in this case, not even the winner takes it all. It's a matter of we win at all costs.
Okay.
Even the president himself has said it is grab it, snatch it. So it doesn't matter whether APC is popular in a state or not. APC is a party that doesn't want to give any chance at all. Whatever it will take, if it will take 100%, it will take 100%.
You talked about
but what we are saying is, let there be free and fair election.
Okay.
Let us not destroy this democracy.
Okay, you talked about fairness and all that.
Yes.
The president said recently, all is fair in politics. That was the first time I'm hearing it. I do know of all is fair in love and war. But the president brought it up, and that is part of what Cardinal John Onayeko raised to express fears that this 2027 election will not be free and fair.
All cannot be fair in politics.
Get to that point where all that will happen will be fair. But if you say all is fair in politics, that means you're removing morality from politics. And when you do that, it's like an animal kingdom where the right is might and might is right.
A banana
we should allow our
republic.
democracy to get to that extent. Even war is guided by certain laws. If you violate some laws, some conventions in fighting war, the Geneva Convention, there are war crimes that you can answer for. So in politics, all can never be fair. Let's go for a break. When we come back, we'll go to Ebonyi State, where there are allegations by the opposition, the PDP, that the state government, APC-led government, is intimidating it and doing all it can within its powers to frustrate it ahead of the governorship election. Stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Information,
education, entertainment. It's more than a cliche. It's a way of life. It's our way of life.
on Kakaki, the African Voice.
In 3, 2, 1, your life.
Talking to the people that matter. On the issues that matter.
Keeping you up to speed on what you need to know and how you need to know.
That's Kakaki, the African Voice.
Monday through to Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television.
Kakaki, the African Voice.
The more you look, the more you see.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Our guest is a lawyer, Emmanuel Nwobo, a chieftain of the PDP in Ebonyi State. He has served as a commissioner or commissioners over time and member of the State House of Assembly. He joins us to take a look at the political environment in Ebonyi State ahead of the next governorship election. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So is it all is fair and right in Ebonyi politics?
Yeah, thank you for welcoming me. In all fairness, as you know, naturally, the campaign for, when you hear free and fair election, a lot of people think it ends with, for example, the result must be fair, the beavers must be on, and all this and that. But the truth is that free and fair election starts from the time of campaign, starts from the time of political activities before the election. As soon as there are circumstances that ordinarily gives an imbalance towards one party or parties or dominates one party, the road to unfair election is already on. Because if you look at what is happening to some of the states, there's this sense of entitlement by incumbents. Incumbents believe that it is their right to ordinarily ascend into the position of a governor once they finish their first tenure. But as you see, Section 80 of the Constitution provided for 4 years tenure. 4 years tenure or 4 years term of anybody under our democracy is what is sacrosanct. The next tenure is to be determined by the performance while in office. So as soon as a governor or any other elected person does not feel he has delivered, feels that he didn't meet up to the expectation of the people, and that there is likelihood of people voting against him in the next election, such a person will now trigger commotion and violence in the system, just to give him what we call home advantage in football. But that is one of the problems of our democracy, the problems of our development. Because if somebody is aware that he's automatically entitled to do a second tenure, which is against the Constitution, the likelihood of him performing while in his first tenure is not there. He will simply believe that the people are either mandated or will be compelled to follow him. But the Constitution provided for a second tenure as a reward for people to redetermine whether the person they have elected have performed and to have a chance of voting him out. So when a governor or any other elected officer under democracy begin to feel entitled to what is not to, or supposed to, it means that our democracy is gradually failing in our face.
How is this playing out in Ebonyi State?
In Ebonyi, you see, as I earlier said, this sense of entitlement of maybe somebody who have done first tenure and could not ordinarily meet the expectations of the people in all ramifications, or totally have scored less than 30% in his performance index, will resort to distraction, violence, incubating homemade terrorism, so that he will now create an avenue to usurp his office as the chief security officer or whatever it looks like.
Are you alleging that that's what the governor has been doing?
Yes, because definitely for the past few months now, there is this indirect embargo, which is laid on political parties to either perform their rights while we envisage the coming election. Recently in Ebonyi, you can see there was this, not just one, not just two, not just three. There was this a party stalwart that recently wanted to defect from the APC to PDP. They went and laid siege. Political appointees, political loyalists to the government went and laid siege in his house, trying to create commotion. And you know what happens when we push people to the wall politically? They resort to self-help, creating an atmosphere of violence. And that is what the governor will now lay hand and say, I'm the chief security officer, so I have the right to command police, army, or civil defense. They must obey me. But that is usurping the power you are supposed to use for the benefit of all, to your personal advantage and aggrandizement, not understanding that democracy, the Constitution provided for every citizen. It has happened some time ago. Another stalwart went to do his New Yam Festival.
Stalwart of what party?
Of the PDP. Went to do a New Yam Festival sometime last month. His home was the last siege on his home, using police and other security agents by false alarm, just to create the impression. Because definitely the atmosphere there is that for the past 3 years, there's nothing to show that there was a government in the state. What you see is what is called window dressing, and a situation where the people in power or the government believes that our performance index is too low, and people are reacting, and the reaction is seen everywhere. They will paint pictures to look like they are walking, but when you come close, you will see that people walk in the street crying inside, because there's nothing to show that there is somebody so pretending over them by the common resources of the state or the taxpayers' money. What you see is an atmosphere where a government is settling those who are loyal to them or who are members of their party, not doing anything possibly for the interests of the masses, upon which the chief executive took oath to protect. Because, you know, when you win an election, it's not about your political party. It's not about the people. Once you are sworn into office with the Constitution, or that as the Constitution provided, you are now more talking. There's a difference between politics and governance. The moment you miss politics and governance, you'll be derailed, and that's what has happened in Ebonyi, for example, they couldn't understand the difference between politics and governance, and they derailed because they assumed that the reason why they were elected was to satisfy those who are in their political parties.
Are the security agencies not offering the
when
necessary
you look at the attitudes,
protection to the PDP and other opposition?
Let me also add, you are a lawyer.
Yes.
And you have also said election is not a one-day activity.
It's not a one-day affair.
So, as a lawyer, if there is, and what you said, a passive illegal invasion of the home of a passive political foe, are there no steps that you can use for remedy?
What we are trying to protect is, there's what we call homegrown terrorism. It has happened in different parts of Nigeria, where the people could not get help from the state or protection from the state to exercise their fundamental rights as provided in the Constitution. For example, right to free assembly, right to personal opinion, and all those rights as enshrined in the Constitution. A lot of people don't have the patience to maybe follow things, maybe sequentially by going to court, especially during the brigandry of political activities. Some people will take to self-help. So the police sometimes, we say who blows the piper dictates the tune. It's not everywhere. But even in Nigeria, you can see that even the president of Nigeria is not usurping his power. There may be indirect accusations of technicalities that is trying to mishandle the opposition parties. But that is always like when you look at courts or when you look at, but you cannot see a practical example apart in isolated cases where the federal government or the president have tried to use his position to subdue political opponents, because the masses are gradually going into resistant mode, and that resistant mode sometimes is what triggers homemade terrorism. And as you can see, Nigeria is passing through one of its most delicate stages of existence since independence. For example, most of these things, the most important part or reason why we are not yet developed as a country is insecurity and power. And you know that while the federal government is trying to solve the power factor, the power problem, this security reared its ugly head to the extent that even power started going.
So you don't want this to envelope Ebonyi State?
Yes, definitely. Because, you see, it's not just about Ebonyi, but Ebonyi is a state of particular concern. At the moment where there may be threats or issuance of orders that there should be no gathering of anybody, of any other political party. What it means...
Who is issuing the
The issuance, for example, when they are what's called vicarious liability, although it doesn't exist in crime, it exists in civil matters. But there's what we call, for example, your agent who comes to execute an affair against somebody else, for example, a political appointee of governance. And when you see the police trying to act biased, and when they raise ridiculous accusations, there is any security, I had information that this security going there, at the point that the commissioners of government will send threat message. I personally have gotten more than 2 threats or 4 threat messages from serving commissioners saying, we will not tolerate any opposition in this state. Imagine the likelihood of a serving commissioner making such statement.
What has the governor said in all of that? Primitive? In all of that, what has the governor said?
The governor cannot make any statement because whatever is playing out as a cover for the ineptitude and lack of performance of the government. The government didn't perform. That's the bitter truth.
Okay, my colleague...
And then you can investigate. It's verifiable according to...
Okay, my colleague also, as I said, what are the security agencies saying or doing?
Are they doing their work?
Are they complicit?
You cannot say, as I told you earlier, those who blows the piper dictates the tune, or he who blows the piper dictates the tune. When a governor is assumed to be the chief security officer of the state, it's assumed that he issues the orders to the security officers, raising issue like
that's an assumption.
Like last few days.
Yes.
As I told the stalwart was trying to defect to the PDP, and the late surge in his house, he wrote to the police. They didn't honor the this thing. He wrote to the DSS. He wrote to the army, but none of these people showed. And rather, what he saw was police arriving early in his place, telling him that the function should not hold. There is a security alarm. It was triggered by the fact that he was leaving the party that is not performing according to him to a party, or he looks for a better index, or where he assumed things will get better for the state. But this information was, they quickly created a scene of insecurity and sent police just to stop the gathering. This is indirect way of trying to subdue those who ordinarily should be exercising their fundamental right of freedom of association and public opinion, because the sense of entitlement in our chief executives is getting high at an abnormal level.
You said you personally received threatening.
Yes, I have.
Are they on your phone?
They're on my phones.
From serving commissioner?
Commissioner.
Did you share this with the security agencies?
I have to do that because I'm purposely storing them for use. And like it's my phone. This time around is not time of joke where I don't want to arrest anybody in my place to do opposition. This kind of thing, that primitivity we put in the head of somebody that assumed to be educated or in government. You see a mission thread that looks as if the sun rises and sets in the state. They don't believe.
So have you reported to the police?
That's what I'm saying, that they are all being documented.
Okay, with a view to sharing.
Yes, with a view
that's
to
the first thing you
at
would
appropriate time, because we're waiting. But what I'm saying is that, you know, if I have if I have the propensity of using my brain in replying what is called threat, does ordinary person, everybody have such character. The continuous threat of opposition, sometimes we push people to do things ordinarily that should not happen. And when such happens, it goes to the insecurity we are all trying to combat. And that is exactly why I say that our major problem in Nigeria now is insecurity. And when there is something looks like executively backed terrorism, threats to life of people and individuals, breach of their fundamental rights, you are gradually not putting terrorism on a nursery level. That if it goes up, people will not understand that most of the things that leads to this resistance, that metamorphosis into terrorism, is the attitude of the person who ordinarily should be protecting the person that have lost hope. And once he loses hope, he goes to self-help. And this is exactly what will make Nigeria work. And by the time we say this party, there's no problem. A terrorism that is breeded in the north, for example, can envelope the whole of Nigeria within a year. And whatever happens in the southeast, we are trying to curtail any act of
escalation
of crisis. And the executive should either curtail his workers, appointees, from making statements that will radicalize the system to a point that at the point people will now begin to go for self-help. And when that goes up, you start saying that...
Let me ask you this question too. Have you ever sought an audience with the governor, maybe to thrash some of these things, or even INEC at that level, because INEC operates in the states too? Or
even federal agencies. The president has PDP as a party shared this with federal institutions.
When you notice a problem in an establishment, and what you do is to escalate it first, then put a measure. Letters are already being written to the appropriate quarters. We're escalating it because the moment they trigger restiveness, insecurity, and homemade terrorism in the state or any other state whatsoever, this is against the principles of the federal government to curb insecurity at all levels. And it will be worse when political insecurity. I saw what's happening on some where people are pleading, can we have security? You know one thing about security, that you may think you're on top of it, or you may think that the one that is on assault level. At a point, you may be the one at the receiving level. And that's why government wastes funds that should be used for the people, and they say there's insecurity in my state. Our soldiers are already being drawn. They're already getting worn out. Our security agencies are getting worn out. So every chief executive, ordinarily, who swore an oath with the Constitution, should be seen as trying to do everything to reduce insecurity at all levels. The moment, because of political interest or sense of entitlement, or you want to go back to second tenure, you try to allow things to happen that are abnormal, you try to raise people that ordinarily should not be raised, you inform them and equip them indirectly to unleash terror on the people who ordinarily are supposed or are doing what is legitimate. When you are doing that, you are indirectly, it's like funding terrorism. Funding terrorism is not only when you send billions of naira or millions of naira for people to buy arms and ammunition. It also emanates from indirectly keeping quiet or not doing what you should do. Because when you swear an oath in the Constitution to protect the Constitution and the people of Nigeria or where you govern, and you just go lackadaisical about it and pretend that nothing is happening just because of personal interest. Because you are denying the people the right to say you didn't do well. And that suppression, it's not only anarchy you are breathing, it's also suppression and a total violation of the fundamental human right of this state.
Let me ask you, the people who are currently in power in Ebonyi State,
good,
and yourself and your group, you have roots in the same political party before.
Good.
PDP.
Yes.
And now, you say it has now degenerated to a situation of threats.
Good.
What does it say of Nigerian politics?
In general?
Yes.
In general, it's like the same thing. Nigeria, for example, but what is trying to escalate in the southeast or in Ebonyi, for example, does not resemble what is happening in Nigeria. You can see technical intimidation taking place in Nigeria, but you cannot see a violation of the people's right of freedom of assembly. For example, you go there and block people's house, people's compound, trying to tell people that nobody should do any opposition in the state. Who are you trying to impress? Are you impressing Mr. President, who was one time in opposition? As Lagos State governor, he was in opposition for 16 years. And for opposition, he became president. And you are trying to impress him by suppressing opposition. That is one of the things, whatever is happening in Nigeria today that is good, assuming things are good in Nigeria, it may be a result of consistent opposition by the president who was there for years and later become a president. And whatever happened now that is positive, according to the party, for example, APC, say things are positive, it should be a result of Ebonyi itself is a product of opposition. For Ebonyi State, for example, was created out of opposition group because the party in 1979 that was MPP dominating the party didn't want Ebonyi to be created. The founding fathers resisted and left the party for NPM because they wanted a state. That struggle continued for years until Ebonyi came up. It was never a product of those who are in ruling party. And you cannot come now and suddenly come with primitivity as a ruling governor or a ruling leaders of the state and say, I don't want. It's intolerance. Political intolerance leads to terrorism. I don't want political opposition. I don't want people to exercise their right. People are saying, allow me to exercise my right. And you are creating cells of violence, secretly funding. Because when you say, are they supposed to be true? When you see some people acting who are even still in office of the government and carrying government paraphernalia of office like vehicles, blocking somebody's compound, or moving to say, I'm a coordinator in that's what's called development center in Ebonyi State. A coordinator will say, I've been instructed not to allow any political gathering in my development center because you are told that if it happens, you will lose the office. So you
office of what?
Of a coordinator.
What's connector? That's
what you call coordinator. They created this semi-local governments earlier when it became
development
areas. They now appointed people to connect it, and the connector is told if you lose your state, the development center, or if they do any rally in your development center. For example, when the parties did primaries a few months ago, every coordinator was trying to make sure that they don't hold any party.
So these things, are there official documents, are there evidence that attempts have been made to hold rallies and perhaps someone writes or sends a message?
I'm telling
because
that even
can't leave it at the level of speculation.
Personal houses have been violated. I've mentioned 2 or 3. I say, for example, last month, a man from a place called Initial wanted to do a New Yam Festival in his house. Just New Yam Festival. Invited his political associates and friends to participate and to join him in the celebration. Within 1 hour, the place was flooded with police and army and DSS. They say that there's a pub. You know, one thing they do in Nigeria now is when there is political assassination or whatever it is called, they say it's unknown gunmen. When there is a gathering of political opponents, they will say it is IPOB or ESN. That in the East, you know, what is prevalent there is ESN, IPOB, and whenever I say such, the government will jitter and say there's a problem, and they're going to say, I have insecurity report. That is a plot, a ploy to make sure that they suppress opposition and hide their incompetence and ineptitude. Because there's a governor that have not commissioned one project for 3 years, not even one.
Are you
I'm telling you the honest truth.
I've seen many ongoing projects.
Those ongoing projects at which side?
But the airport was finished by him.
It was
the
not,
airport,
it was,
his predecessor started.
This
governor corrected errors and
it was rehabilitated by him. Excuse me, it was rehabilitated by him. Is that not what you're saying? How many days in office was it rehabilitated? So can somebody rehabilitate a project within 1 week in office?
Well, we'll fact check your claim
we don't want to
that the governor has not commissioned any project. We'll fact
it has
check
not. And in one occasion, he was saying, I am not in haste to commission projects when I have 8 years. You see that sense of entitlement? How can I be commissioning projects when I have 8 years, another 4 years? That shows you the level of understanding they have about the Nigerian Constitution, about tenureship. A lot of people believe that it is automatic that once you do first tenure, nobody's entitled to remove you in second tenure. Even the people, the masses, don't have the right to even say they want to vote. In fact, they want to suppress you, that you must vote them. They hold the rights of the people's life, the resources of the people that comes every month from the central purse, so they share it as they like, excluding people who are opposing them, and suppressing people not only psychologically, they suppress them physically. Because, for example, when you share farming inputs, share other things to the state, and you make it to a straight way that only political allies of the same political party are allowed to benefit, you are rather suppressing people. It's hunger punishment, which is even against the Geneva Convention. In wars, conventional wars.
Weaponization of hunger.
Yes, weaponization of hunger is against the Geneva Convention.
No, I just wanted to know.
Even in wars, conventional wars, you don't use hunger as a threat or as a punishment on people that don't believe in what you're doing. So by the time you share state resources in such a manner that only those who believe in your regime or those who believe in you have the right to go to meeting and eat and enjoy the paraphernalia of the office or the resource from the office, it means that you are weaponizing hunger. And after that is not enough, and the people still resist. You now go about stopping their fundamental rights. It's happened only in Uganda, some other military-infested countries, or even other than army in Nigeria, it never happened.
Okay. You see, I just wanted to add that from what you said about him saying, oh, he's not in a hurry to commission projects because he has 8 years. It is within his right, it is within his power to aspire to be in office for 8 years. It's also within your power to try to wrest power from him, but using legal, legitimate means.
And by the time, the demonizing opposition, for example, for the sake of making sure that they don't operate or using the public money, because Nigerian security is paid with public funds. By the time you corner them to your advantage, the point that you expect them to obey your whims and caprices to make sure that opposition, because opposition is one of the fundamental rights of the Constitution, is also the thing that keeps a chief executive standing. If somebody did not perform, I have not in any way influenced their life in 4 years as a governor or president, you have the right to say, I can't vote this person back. If otherwise, why are we pressing democracy? Even the military, I said, did not go to the extent of ordinarily attacking conventions.
It's your party set.
Okay, I will have to allow him to go now. I'll have to say thank you to our guest, Emmanuel Nwobo, a chieftain of the PDP, but I will continue to insist that your party continues to toe the legitimate lines in righting some of these perceived wrongs. In the course of this program, we'll try to fact-check what you said about completion of projects. But before we go to our mails, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
Let's hear from you now as we read some of the mails you have sent to our email platform.
All right, so we have this one from Amechi Obochi from Kubwa here in Abuja. It says, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission reportedly froze the bank accounts of the Osun State government yesterday. This development raises important questions. What is the EFCC trying to achieve? Could this be seen as an action capable of disrupting government activities ahead of the August 15 governorship election? These are concerns that deserve clear explanations in order to sustain public confidence in the neutrality of government institutions. Anyway, whatever the circumstance, President Tinubu should ensure that all institutions operate impartially and within the law. A credible electoral process depends on a level playing field where all contestants have equal opportunities and no party has reason to question the fairness of the process. As the August 15 governorship election in Osun approaches, every effort should be made to guarantee a free, fair, and transparent election. Second one is from Emeka Mbaha from Abuja here. It says, please permit me to weigh in on the freezing of Osun State accounts by the EFCC, just 10 days to the state's governorship election. I think this is a continuation of the flagrant abuse of power and the use of state apparatus to suppress, frustrate, and intimidate the opposition, which we have been witnessing from the government in power for a long time now. I make bold to submit that the EFCC did a very pathetic job as they tried to explain away this anomaly, that it is to prevent vote buying and save money for the people of Osun State. Meanwhile, they watch state governors all over the country spend state allocation like their personal accounts, flying private jets and other frivolities, and living ostentatious lifestyles. The federal government must be advised to provide a level playing ground for free, fair, credible, and acceptable elections to save our democracy and stop all these shenanigans gravitating towards a one-party state. Dixon Eka writes in from Abuja too, and he says, the statement of President Tinubu that all is fair in politics is playing out strongly in Osun State, with the illegal freezing of the Osun State government accounts and the clampdown on their court party members and taking them to Abuja and other places. President Tinubu is proudly destroying every fabric that holds democracy and democratic values in Nigeria, setting bad precedents that will leave a dent on democracy. President Tinubu no longer remembers that he was once in opposition and that all can never be fair in politics. The use of state power to harass opposition cannot be fair in politics, and I urge President Tinubu to soft pedal in his desperate quest to destroy every opposition. Victory is sweet when opposition is strong.
Okay, thank you so much for the emails, and let's quickly fact check what our guests have said, that the governor of Ebonyi State, Francis Nwufuru, has been unable to indeed complete any project since he assumed office more than 3 years ago. This statement came in June or May 2025. The Commissioner for Works in Ebonyi State, Engineer Stanley Mbam, said in a webinar that, let me take this quote directly from him, when we came on board, we tried to intervene in the urban capital city because most of our roads were dilapidated and road users found them difficult. We were able to maintain them under phase one of the project, which included Alo Street, Offord Street, Unity Square, Godia Obaga Avenue, and we expanded the city by extending it to my 50 houses, where we sprang forth a new layout and many roads have been constructed there. That is more than a year ago. But the argument continues. Perhaps the government will find platforms to showcase a project it has completed and perhaps commissioned. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of my colleagues, my name is Amici Anapwe. Have a good time.